Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to YEG MS, episode number 35. For this episode, well, let me take a step back. Once again, I need to apologize for the length of time it's taken me to put out another episode. The reason for it is the beginning of December, I changed careers, and with my new position, I've been traveling quite a bit. So in the last month and a bit, I've been to Calgary, Alberta twice, Vancouver, British Columbia once, and Stone Mountain, Georgia. That is combined with my new position. I work from home, so I've been building myself a new office in the basement of my house. That is finally complete, and I'm recording this in my new office. I'm really excited about it. So my apologies, but I should be getting back to a regular schedule now. But in all that travel, obviously I have a lot of time to think. To drive to Calgary and back is about 6 hours on the highway. I had about a 17-hour day of airports going to and from Stone Mountain, Georgia. So I had a lot of time to think, and one of the things I thought about, and I thought this might make an interesting topic for a podcast, is what would I do if I were given or bequeathed a time machine? In some sort of alternate reality where that kind of stuff is possible. So whether it's, say a genie comes down, grants a wish, and I get a time machine, or, I meet Doc Brown and he turns a DeLorean into one, or whatever, right? It's an amazing thing about that series of movies, Back to the Future, is that anytime time travel comes up in our modern lexicon, it seems that movie always gets referenced. Anyway, so if I were given a time machine, what would I do? Would I go back and change anything? If there was a behavior or something that I was eating or drinking or lifestyle, if somehow I could avoid getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And it's an interesting question. Sort of the gut reaction, of course you'd go back and change it, and you wouldn't want that. But then when I thought about it, I thought, well, look at all the things that have happened to me since my diagnosis. And would I have achieved a place in my life where some of those things could have happened? So then I thought, well, maybe this question isn't as simple as I'd like to believe. Obviously, anytime you could potentially go back and not get a diagnosis like MS, you would automatically think you would take it. But then I had to think, well, since I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I met my wife. We've welcomed, who I love dearly, and I honestly I couldn't have asked for a better partner in life. And we have welcomed two awesome kids in Bella and Jonah, who are just a joy. It was on, it's not just this past weekend. We had two family dances Friday and Saturday night. I don't know that I've ever been to a family dance previous in my entire life, but there just so happened the way it worked out. There was two, one on Friday night and one on Saturday night. Well, watching my kids on Friday night, it was at my daughter's school, dancing with the friends, and well, Bella's in grade 1 and Jonah's in preschool. It's not even his school. But watching them and seeing their faces and, having it take me back to what it was like at my first dance and how intimidating that was. And just that feeling of unknown and what do I do and how does this work, and I'm in a comfortable place like my school, but at the same time it's so uncomfortable because it's such a different experience. But being able to share that with them, was wonderful. It was an absolutely wonderful thing to be a part of. And again, brought me back to thinking about this question: would I change anything in the past if the option were open to me? And I don't think that I would. And that may be surprising to some people listening to this, but since I got diagnosed, I got married, I had my kids, I started running, I ran ultra marathons, I ended up raising a bunch of money in support of MS. I started this podcast. I ended up in the career that I'm in. So it's not an easy answer. I think but that's for me, and I think it's we all have a different journey. It's a different journey for each and every one of us. So in stating that, I'm not suggesting that my response to that question would be yours. I'm just saying, for me, I don't know that I would change anything. And the reason why is the path I was on when MS reared its head wasn't a good one. It wasn't a healthy one. And it's my belief, and I can't prove this, but it's my belief that the lifestyle and path that I was on was a contributing factor to me developing multiple sclerosis. Prior to getting diagnosed with MS, I really struggled with relationships. I was that classic person who was always wondering if the grass was greener someplace else. And it didn't matter who I was with. I didn't really want to 100% commit to it. To commit to being in a relationship in the event that I potentially missed out on something better. That's a horrible way to live. I realize that now, but that's just how it was at the time. So looking back, that was not healthy. It wasn't right, and it wasn't fair to the people that I interacted with, nor myself. So that was a problem. Another problem was I had a bit of a Peter Pan complex. A kind of refusal to grow up. And now, while I'd always managed to make enough money that I was, to support myself. It was the lifestyle outside of that was, I lived an extended adolescence, well into my late 20s. And it could be argued even into my early 30s. I was out every night, drinking, smoking, doing that whole thing for a solid decade. And it didn't lead to great relationships. It didn't lead to great, I have some really dear friends that came out of that period of my life. But it never led to anything positive for me in terms of growing as a person, growing in a career, growing academically, socially, you name it. So I would have been sleep deprived, I would have been malnourished, even though that I was taking in far more calories than I needed. Obviously cigarettes, that goes without saying how horrific those can be for you. And then top that off with alcohol and lots of it. That's a recipe for inflammation, that's a recipe for poor health, that's a recipe for all kinds of other conditions outside of multiple sclerosis. So, but how does that relate to traveling back in time and not deciding to change anything? Well, when I got diagnosed, it almost felt like, to me, the universe was calling me out on my BS. I think that this wasn't, this wasn't specific to me, and I think a lot of people suffer from this, the delusion that somehow you're special. Again, that may sound shocking to some, but I hate to break it to you. And when I'm talking about special, I'm not talking about when you call your kid special. That's not what I'm referencing. What I'm referencing is I think a lot of us like to sit and believe that there's something mythical about us individually, as individuals, like myself, that sets us apart from the rest of the population. Somehow I'm special. That doesn't apply to me. The regular rules don't apply to me. I'm special. So I can drink all this, and I can smoke, and I can be out all night. I'm fine. Everything's okay. I don't need to change. I'm special. And I think, this is all stuff that's in your own internal monologue, or it was in mine. I can't speak for anyone else, but it was in my internal monologue. And somehow, I'm set apart from the rest of the group. That stuff won't happen to me. I'm special. Now, whether my lifestyle directly contributed to me developing multiple sclerosis isn't for me to say. My belief is that it did, but I can't say that as a point of fact. But regardless, when I got diagnosed, it felt like the universe was calling me out on my BS and saying, hey, you're just like everyone else. You can't live that way and not expect a consequence. There are consequences to every choice you make. You chose to live a very hard lifestyle for an extended period of time. Here's the slap across the face you needed to wake up. Now, luckily for me, the diagnosis and my MS has been relapsing, remitting. I've been in remission now for a while. I still have daily symptoms like numb feet and fingers. I could handle a week without anxiety. If anyone knows how to take a vacation from anxiety, that would be awesome. Let me know. Email me. depression is a constant battle. But I find as long as I'm exercising regularly, then that seems to take care of itself. I mean, yeah, I have drop foot. I had drop foot when I was in Georgia a couple weeks ago. It's warm enough there that I could run outside, so I'm running, and I had roots and drop foot. They don't mix. Kind of funny story about that. I was where we were staying in Stone Mountain, Georgia. There's a resort right across this man-made lake that's made by a dam across from Stone Mountain. So I figured I'd run across the Stone Mountain, and I'm clipping along this lake. It's really pretty. It was really pretty. And there's these two guys out fishing in an aluminum boat, and I'm clipping along the shoreline, and I had a bit of drop foot, caught a root, and then bam, I was flat out on my face. I still have a bruise on my leg from it, but and of course these guys are like honestly 20 feet away from me on shore, and they just kind of stop and look, and I get up and try and act cool like nothing happened, but I was in a lot of pain. But anyway, I was able to keep running. But yeah, so drop foot, I mean, issues with my balance, sometimes my eyes give it problems, but for the most part, it's been really, really stable. So again, I'm not speaking to the people that, have progressive or currently in the throes of an attack. But yeah, I've been fortunate that my MS has been relatively stable, and that I've been able to live a relatively normal life since. I mean, I've had hiccups here and there. I've had to go on the gadolinium and every now and then, but for the most part, it's been safe. Anyway, so the diagnosis led me to really, really evaluate the lies that I've been telling myself for years. I mean, we're talking over a decade. And I'm still not through it. I mean, I'm 10 years, almost 11 years into my diagnosis, and I'm still peeling back the layers of the crappy lies that you tell yourself that allow you to function, whether it's regarding your diet or exercise or, health just in general. And again, but it's been a very freeing experience realizing that I'm not special. The rules apply to me just like they apply to everyone else. So how do I navigate, and how do I negotiate, and how do I go through life, without any sort of magical powers that I've been lying to myself that I thought that I might have had. So that was point number one. If you're sitting there, for me, I had just turned 30 years old, and my world was changed. But what that did is I had to be very critical of myself. So I started running. At the time I was probably 260, 270 pounds, pretty overweight. And so I started walking to begin with, and walking eventually turned into running. Started to get my health in order, my physical health, but then it was time to work on my mental health, and I don't know which one was tougher. Getting your physical health in order seems to happen a lot quicker than your mental health, because I don't think that mentally I'm right to this day. I think I've come a long way, but I know that I still have a lot of work to do. But in working on myself, I had to, it became very apparent to me I needed to tackle my phobias and the poor way I looked at relationships, and realizing that always looking for that greener grass meant that I was going to be perpetually always looking for that greener grass, and that I was missing out on really wonderful things right in front of me, and which led me to getting married. I met my wife, but I approached her in our relationship and my expectations from a completely different point of view, a completely different frame of reference. And it was the first time I ever approached a relationship where I wasn't constantly considering how other people might see it, or how, or wondering if I was missing out on somebody better. And it's changed my life. I mean, she's changed my life. We've been together now since December of 2009, and we got married in August of 2010, and I haven't looked back. It's been amazing, and then we started having kids, and our kids are amazing, and I think if I were to go back in time and change my, getting diagnosed with MS and change this course of my life, I wouldn't do it, because I feel like I would risk losing my wife and my 2 children, and it's just not something. I would rather live a life with MS and have them than than to never have gotten diagnosed. If they're the trade-off, I'll make that trade 10 times out of 10. So, that's been my experience, and it's a strange. For me, it's a strange relationship I have with my disease. On one hand, I would love to find out, tomorrow, that there's a universal cure. You take this pill, knock 3 times, and it's gone. But would I go back and change anything in the past if it meant that I didn't get diagnosed? I wouldn't. Because I like who I am, but a lot of that, and I like who I am now, and I like the way my life's gone. But a big part of that is due to the tough lessons that MS taught me. And I'm not giving credit to my disease to having a wife and child. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the way it unfolded, the way my story unfolded, the way my journey unfolded, it's almost impossible to separate the two from my point of view. It's kind of like, when you kick over that first domino, right? And I think that's what life is. It's just, when you're born, that series of dominoes is kicked over, and you just don't know how it's going to unfold. But in order to get to the end, you can't go back and start taking out tiles. The path is what the path is, and I think there's a level of acceptance that I had to go through, and accept the fact that this has been my journey, this has been my path, and I have to accept it as a totality, and I can't nitpick the who, how, and why. In the infinite, the universe is infinite, and how does some creature like me, who's so small and so insignificant in the grand scope of the universe, how could you possibly question it? Whether you believe in God, or a grand spirit, or a grand architect, or whatever faith frames your understanding of the universe, I don't think it's my place to question it. So that is a really long answer to would I go back in time and change what's happened to me. And I could have just said no and offered no explanation, but that's my answer. Be curious to hear yours. So on that note, if you want to hit me back with your comments or your questions or anything, you can reach me. You can always email me at Sean, SEAN, at ownmultiplesclerosis.com. That's OWN, multiple sclerosis, all one word.com. You can also find me on Twitter at ownms.com1. And you can also find the Own Multiple Sclerosis page on Facebook. And you can also go to the ownmultiplesclerosis.com website, where there'll be a companion post to this very podcast, where you can drop a comment. This will also be offered on YouTube as well, so if you want to like or subscribe or drop a comment, actually I don't try to cool comments on on YouTube, so never mind. But yeah, I usually hear from listeners after every episode, and I sure enjoy it. And if anyone ever wants to be on YEG MS, just send me a line, and we'll have you on, and you can tell your story. I've got just about 2 minutes left here, so for the next episode, I'm actually going to talk about cannabis or marijuana and multiple sclerosis. I'm going to talk about it again because it came up in the news again recently. Here in Canada, we're kind of at the coming to the finish line of the federal government legalizing it, but whether that happens this year or not, I don't know. It sounds like every time they say it's about ready to go, there's a setback. But there's a lot of mixed information out there on whether or not it's effective for people with multiple sclerosis or not. I'll present some of the research that's been done, and ultimately, as always, like I say, do your own research and make a good decision for yourself, but certainly do the research first. But anyway, that'll be on the next episode. So once again, email me, tweet at me, find me on Facebook, go to ownmultiplesclerosis.com, drop a comment on the companion post to this website, to this podcast, and yeah, we will talk to you again really, really soon, and I will for sure have another episode out in 2 weeks or less. Promise. I'm going to get in a regular schedule now. My office is built. I'm settling in with my new job, so things will get better. So once again, thanks for joining me on YEG MS. We'll talk to you again really, really soon. Take care.